The Skinless Sea Horse Man of the Orkneys. Part 1. The Warning. I arrived in the Orkney Islands with the chill of the North Sea already seeping through my bones. The ferry groaned against the fog, a low, mournful sound that seemed almost alive. I was here for research studying the unusual currents and marine life, but there was a part of me drawn by stories whispered by sailors and villagers alike. Stories about something that shouldn't exist, something that the sea had claimed as its own. The village where I lodged was tiny, almost forgotten by time. Stone cottages huddled together like survivors, and the narrow cobblestone paths wound around each other in tangled patterns. Locals eyed me cautiously as I carried my bag of equipment, a stranger with questions they didn't want to answer. In the pub, I found them speaking in low tones, their accents thick with centuries of isolation. An old fisherman, his face lined like driftwood, leaned across the table. "You shouldn't be here," he said, eyes glinting like wet stones. "Not if you value your soul or your sanity." I laughed, though it came out forced. I was a scientist, trained to dismiss superstition. Yet even as I smiled, I felt a tug of unease. "They call him the Nuckelavee," he whispered. "A creature of the waves. No skin, black blood. It hates us all. And it remembers." I wanted to mock him, to insist he tell a better story. But the intensity in his gaze, the way his knuckles gripped the table, made me pause. Even in the crowded pub, there was a stillness, a weight pressing down as if the sea itself had paused to listen. That night, the wind tore at my lodging. I lay awake listening to its howl, and beneath it, something else, a scraping, slithering noise, faint at first, then louder, almost deliberate. I tried to convince myself it was the wind, branches against stone, but sleep eluded me. Every so often, I imagined movement in the fog outside the window, a shadow gliding just beyond sight. At dawn, I decided to launch my small boat and explore the coastline. Mist hung over the cliffs like smoke, obscuring the jagged rocks and swallowing the waves into gray nothingness. I rowed cautiously, scanning the water, recording temperatures, current speeds, and algae patches. Yet every time I looked ahead, my eyes searched for shapes that should not exist, shapes I had glimpsed in the fishermen's tailies. Hours passed. The sea was silent, except for the slap of my oars and the occasional call of distant gulls. Then I saw it, a dark blur beneath the waves. Too wide, too long to be driftwood or a school of fish. It moved with purpose, gliding unnaturally fast. The water around it churned, almost boiling. My stomach knotted. I blinked. When I looked again, the figure rose briefly, and I swear the water peeled from it like liquid skin, revealing sinew and muscle where skin should have been. Its head was both man and horse, grotesque and terrible. A shiver ran through me. My rational mind screamed for an explanation, but there was none that made sense. The shadow sank as quickly as it rose, leaving ripples that shimmered in the gray morning. My hands shook as I took notes, but the fear lingered, thick and clinging. Rational explanations, fog, waves, my own imagination felt hollow. The air seemed heavier, as if the sea itself were aware of my presence. I returned to the village, trying to appear normal, but the villagers noticed my pallor, the way I avoided speaking. An elderly woman, her hair a silvery crown, approached me. "You've seen him," she said simply, almost accusingly. "He remembers. And if he remembers you, the sea will not let you go easily." I nodded, uncertain whether to believe her or flee. She handed me a small weathered book, its pages yellowed and brittle. "Fishermen's journals," she said. Accounts of vanished boats, of nightmares etched on those who saw the Nuckelavee, of families cursed after mocking the sea. I flipped through the pages, uneasy. Every description was consistent. Skinless, horse-like, eyes hollow yet knowing, punishing those who forgot respect. I spent the day recording algae patterns and water currents, but I could not shake the memory of that shape, the way it had moved, the unnatural precision in its motion. By afternoon, the fog had thickened, swallowing the cliffs entirely. I was alone on the water, rowing cautiously, the gray mist pressing against me like a living thing. Then came the whispers, faint at first, mingling with the wind. A voice not entirely human, not entirely sound. "Why do you forget?" it seemed to ask. My heart thumped violently, and I scanned the water for anything unusual. Nothing, yet I could feel it aware of me, watching, waiting. Hours blurred. I pulled close to the shore, exhausted and chilled. The village was silent, as if it too were holding its breath. The old fisherman approached, his gaze grave. "The first sighting is the warning," he said. "It tests you, remembers you. Some are never tested again. They vanish, or worse." That night, I barely slept. Every gust of wind, every shifting shadow in my room felt like movement just beyond comprehension. The Nuckelavee's presence lingered in my mind like smoke. I realized that this was no ordinary folklore. There was truth in the tales, a reality far stranger than any science I had studied. I returned to the cliffs the next morning, carrying a camera and my journal, determined to document the phenomenon. The fog was thicker, the water a deep gray-black. My heart pounded as I scanned for any sign of the shape I had glimpsed. Hours passed with nothing, but I knew it was there, patient, watching, remembering. As the sun dipped low, painting the mist with a sickly gold, I glimpsed movement again. A shadow beneath the waves, elongated, unnatural. I froze, gripping the oars with white-knuckled hands. The figure rose briefly, and my breath caught. The water peeled away like molten skin, sinew glistening in the dim light, and those hollow eyes, endless and knowing, locked onto me. I rowed back frantically, my mind screaming for rationality, for explanation, but none came. The air itself seemed to pulse with awareness, and I realized that the legend had a logic of its own. The sea remembers through the Nuckelavee. It judges, punishes records. By the time I reached the shore, darkness had fallen. The village lights glimmered dimly in the mist. I stumbled onto solid ground, shivering, heart racing. The locals watched silently, knowing. They understood what I had seen. I had glimpsed it, and in that moment, my life had changed forever. Even now, I could feel the echo of its gaze, the pulse of the sea beneath my feet. The Nuckelavee was patient. It remembered. And for those who ignored the warnings, for those who mocked the sea, the memory was only the beginning. I sat that night in the pub, nursing another cup of tea, my hands trembling slightly. Outside, the wind whipped through the streets, carrying with it whispers I could almost hear. I had arrived seeking knowledge, certainty, and science. Instead, I found fear and the first warning that my curiosity might have led me too far. The sea waits, and the Nuckelavee remembers. The Skinless Sea Horse Man of the Orkneys. Part 2. The Encounter. I could not shake the feeling of being watched. Each morning, the wind whispered through the stone cottages of the village, curling around corners, brushing against doors, as if searching. My dreams were haunted by rippling waves and hollow eyes, images of sinew glinting in dim light. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, yet every instinct screamed that the Nuckelavee had marked me. The locals had not lied. The first sighting was a warning, and now the real encounter was coming. Determined to document the phenomenon, I prepared my small boat with cameras, notebooks, and measuring equipment. I told myself it was science, evidence, proof of some unknown marine creature. The fog hung thick over the water, a blanket of gray that erased distance and detail. Each stroke of my oars felt like intrusion into a world I was not meant to enter. Hours passed as I drifted along the cliffs, scanning the waves for movement. The mist swallowed everything beyond a few meters. Shapes appeared and vanished at the edges of perception. Then I saw it, a shadow beneath the water, broad and elongated, moving with terrifying purpose. My hands froze on the oars as the water ahead boiled faintly, an unnatural churning that did not belong. I had seen glimpses before, but now it was unmistakable. The figure rose, sinew gleaming where skin should have been, muscles flexing beneath raw tissue. Its face was horse and man, grotesque in its beauty and horror. Hollow eyes met mine, and I realized with a sickening certainty that it remembered me. Every misstep, every small act of disregard toward the sea had been recorded. I tried to row backward, but the fog seemed to distort distance. Every stroke brought no relief. The coastline itself appeared to shift, cliffs bending in impossible ways. The creature's form surfaced again, closer now, riding the waves as if they were solid ground. It galloped across the water, faster than anything natural, each movement precise, deliberate, and predatory. My heart pounded as I realized it was not hunting blindly. It was testing me, punishing me, reminding me of my transgressions. The first time the Nuckelavee fully emerged, I glimpsed the black blood flowing along its raw limbs, dripping into the churning sea. I heard a hiss in my mind, a whisper threaded with anger. Why do you forget? Panic clawed at my chest. I tried to speak, to reason, but my words were swallowed by the wind. The mist thickened, wrapping around me, hiding the shore, the cliffs, every point of reference. The Nuckelavee circled me, each pass closer than the last, until I could see the texture of its sinew, the tautness of its muscles, the emptiness of its eyes. It was alive in a way that defied natural law, an embodiment of the sea's memory and wrath. I rowed frantically toward what I hoped was safety, the boat groaning beneath me. Rocks scraped against the hull, and I cursed myself for venturing so far alone. The water surged unnaturally, pulling at the oars, pushing the boat in directions I had not intended. Each time I glanced over the side, I saw the shadow moving beneath the waves, impossible in scale, impossibly fast. The first contact came suddenly. A wave erupted, taller than any natural swell, crashing into my boat and flipping it. I was thrown into the freezing water, lungs burning, heart hammering. The Nuckelavee rose beside me, its raw form glistening under the gray light, black blood mixing with the sea. It circled me with deliberate menace, and I felt an otherworldly awareness, as if the creature could read my very thoughts. I tried to swim toward a jagged outcropping, using whatever strength remained. My fingers clawed at wet stone, blood mixing with seawater from small cuts. The creature did not follow immediately, but its presence was all around, pressing in, echoing in my mind. I could feel the sea itself bend to its will, currents pulling at me, tides rising unnaturally, dragging me back toward open water. Hours, or perhaps minutes, blurred together. The fog swallowed all sense of time. I was exhausted, hypothermic, but I could not stop moving. The Nuckelavee's hollow eyes tracked me ceaselessly, memory incarnate, marking me as part of its endless record. It did not strike, not yet, but its proximity was terror enough. It was the punishment of observation, being seen, understood, and judged. I finally reached a rocky ledge jutting from the cliff, collapsing onto it, shivering violently. My vision swam, my teeth chattering. The creature lingered at the edge of the water, black blood dripping into the waves. Hollow eyes remained fixed on me, unblinking, patient. I realized that escape was possible, but freedom came with a cost. The Nuckelavee would remember me forever. The villagers found me at dusk, delirious and muttering about sinew, waves, and eyes that never blinked. They dragged me back to the village, shaking their heads, whispering that the first encounter was the hardest to survive. I understood why. The Nuckelavee did not simply attack it, taught, it punished. It imprinted memory upon those who trespassed. Even in the safety of the village, I could feel its presence. The sea pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, whispering, "Why do you forget?" Every shadow seemed alive, every gust of wind a reminder of what had watched me. Sleep became a battlefield. My dreams were waves boiling under gray skies, skinless limbs circling me endlessly, black blood dripping into infinity. I tried to rationalize. Perhaps it was a hallucination, a fevered imagination, fueled by isolation and exhaustion. But the locals knew better. Their whispers, their cautious glances, the old journals they kept in the corner of the pub all spoke of countless others who had glimpsed it, who had survived encounters, but were forever marked. By the following morning, I had resolved to return to the cliffs. I needed evidence. I needed proof. Science demanded documentation, rationality, understanding. But as I launched my boat into the thickening fog, I felt the weight of something ancient pressing down, a consciousness far beyond my comprehension. The water churned almost immediately, as if aware of my intrusion. Shadows moved beneath the surface, fast, deliberate, impossible. The Nuckelavee was patient. It circled, always watching, waiting for me to make a mistake, to slip into the record of its memory. Hours passed, my body straining against the cold and the currents. Then the first real attack occurred. A massive wave, taller than any natural swell, erupted from nowhere, splintering my boat. I was thrown into the freezing water, my lungs screaming. The creature surfaced beside me, sinew glistening, hollow eyes unblinking. It made no sound, but the intent was clear. I was not simply prey, I was a witness, a participant in the sea's memory, and it would not allow me to leave unchanged. I clawed at rocks, dragging myself toward the jagged cliffs. The Nuckelavee's presence pressed against me like a physical weight, and I felt something impossible. It was aware of my fear, my exhaustion, my panic. The water itself seemed to bend to its will, currents forming lulls and traps, tides pulling me back toward open ocean. Finally, barely conscious, I collapsed onto a ledge, gasping, my hands bleeding. The creature did not follow immediately, but I knew it could. Hollow eyes remained fixed on me from the edge of the waves. Every instinct screamed that I was still in danger, that the encounter had only begun. The villagers helped me back, speaking in hushed tones. "You have seen it fully," one whispered, "and it has seen you. That is enough for now, but it remembers. And those who are remembered cannot forget." Even as I rested, I could feel the memory imprint itself deep within me. Every detail, every image of sinew, of raw muscle, of hollow eyes and black blood would haunt me forever. Sleep came fitfully, with dreams of waves boiling under gray skies, the creature circling endlessly, whispering its questions. "Why do you forget?" I understood then that science could not explain this. Observation alone had brought me into its domain. The Nuckelavee was more than legend. It was memory, judgment, and punishment incarnate. And I was now part of that record. By the end of that second day, I made a grim decision. I would continue to study, to document, but cautiously. Every movement, every glance, every action had consequences. The Nuckelavee did not strike randomly. It observed, it remembered, and it punished. I had seen its eyes. I had felt its judgment. And I knew the encounter was far from over. The sea pulsed beneath my feet, even on land. I could hear faint whispers in the wind, carrying through the village streets at night. The creature was patient. It did not need to chase immediately. It only needed to remember, and it would not forget. The warning had become reality. The encounter was complete, and yet the danger had only just begun. The Nuckelavee had marked me, and I knew with absolute certainty that the next time I faced it, there would be no mercy. The Skinless Sea Horse Man of the Orkneys, Part 3. The Memory. The nights had grown restless. Even on solid ground, I could feel the pulse of the sea beneath my feet. Every gust of wind carried whispers, and every shadow seemed to bend and stretch unnaturally. Sleep became a battlefield. My dreams were haunted by waves oiling under gray skies, by sinew glistening in dim light, by hollow eyes that seemed to pierce beyond flesh and bone. The Nuckelavee was patient, and if remembered. I pored over every journal, every old account the villagers had lent me, desperate for understanding. Fishermen's logs from decades past described encounters nearly identical to mine. A boat capsized in thick fog, a shadow gliding across waves, hollow eyes, sinew, black blood. Every survivor spoke of memory imposed, seared into the mind by the creature's presence. Some had gone mad. Some had disappeared entirely. By mid-morning, I set out again, unable to resist the compulsion. A part of me wanted proof. Another part feared what I might see. The fog clung to the cliffs like a living curtain. My boat creaked and groaned as I rode into the gray void. Beneath the water, I could sense something moving, something immense, something patient. Then it emerged. The Nuckelavee rose from the depths, sinew glistening, muscles rippling beneath exposed tissue. Its hollow eyes locked onto mine, and I felt it reach into my mind. Not physically, but mentally, threads of memory, fear, and guilt intertwined with the pulse of the waves. It was as though the creature could see my lineage, my mistakes, my small acts of disrespect to the ocean and its creatures. I staggered in the boat, my hands gripping the oars, but the sea itself resisted me. Currents shifted without reason, pushing me off course, spinning me toward the open waves. I realized then that this encounter was unlike the previous ones. The Nuckelavee was no longer simply observing. It was teaching. It replayed the mistakes of others, echoes of past trespassers, their faces distorted in the water, their screams muted by fog. I saw fishermen who had vanished, their boats claimed by waves, their expressions etched into the sinew and muscle of the creature itself. Panic consumed me, but I could not look away. The creature circled, each movement deliberate, a rhythm I could not escape. Every eye I glimpsed beneath its skinless form seemed to carry centuries of memory. I understood that the Nuckelavee was more than predator. It was a record, a judgment, a living archive of human disregard. And I was now a part of it. I tried to shout, to assert my presence, but the words were swallowed by wind and fog. The sea itself seemed to respond, waves rising unnaturally, spiraling around me, pressing inward. I had crossed into its domain, and it had claimed me in memory, if not in flesh. Hours, or was it days? Blurred together. My sense of time dissolved in the fog. The Nuckelavee played scenes before me. Villagers ignoring warnings, fishermen mocking the sea, ancestors taking more than they were owed. Each tableau twisted and churned beneath the waves, sinew glinting, hollow eyes observing. I understood then that it did not strike randomly. It punished through memory, forcing comprehension of every sin, every neglect, every dismissal of respect. I clung to the boat, exhausted, shivering, my mind teetering on the edge of sanity. The fog pressed closer, obscuring the cliffs and the horizon. The water beneath me churned with impossible currents, and I felt the creature reach into my mind again. It was as if the Nuckelavee could read not only my thoughts, but the thoughts of my ancestors, pulling past and present together into one inescapable web. In desperation, I sought shelter on a jagged outcropping. My hands bled as I dragged myself onto the stone. The Nuckelavee did not follow immediately, but its presence was a pressure, a weight, a certainty. The sea pulsed, echoing its awareness. Even from the shore, I felt the judgment, the patience, the memory. I realized then that escape might be possible in body, but not in mind. I was now part of the record it carried. The villagers watched quietly as I returned, pale and trembling. Some whispered that the Nuckelavee could trap souls in memory, replaying their errors for eternity. Others said it simply recorded, leaving the living to wrestle with the weight of being remembered. I understood both. Each sleepless night, each hallucination, each pulse of the tide reminded me that I was trapped in its memory, even when I walked among the living. Sleep offered no relief. Every dream was a reenactment. Waves boiling, sinew glinting, hollow eyes staring. I began to recognize the faces of those who had come before me, their errors and sins intertwined with mine. The creature was teaching, punishing, imprinting understanding. I realized that the Nuckelavee did not kill indiscriminately. It forced recognition, remembrance, and fear. I tried to return to rationality, to record every observation, every detail. But the Nuckelavee did not allow clarity. Distances warped, fog thickened unnaturally, and time fractured. A tree on the cliff I passed one morning would appear miles away the next. Rocks seemed to shift when I wasn't looking. Currents spun in impossible patterns. The creature's power extended beyond flesh and sinew. It was an architect of perception, a master of memory, a sculptor of fear. By the third day, I could no longer distinguish reality from hallucination. I saw the creature in the village streets, in shadows between cottages, in reflections on the water. The villagers noticed my terror, but said nothing. They had seen others like me, marked and haunted. I was no longer simply an observer. I had become part of the story, part of the memory that the sea carried through the Nuckelavee. Desperation forced me to confront it directly. I launched the boat once more, heart hammering. The fog was nearly solid, swallowing everything beyond a few meters. I rowed toward the cliffs, toward where I had glimpsed it before, and the water boiled ahead. The Nuckelavee emerged, sinew glistening, muscles taut, hollow eyes unblinking. It circled me deliberately, replaying my fears, my mistakes, my lineage, and the mistakes of those who had come before. I realized then that the Nuckelavee's memory was infinite. It carried the histories of countless humans, marking errors, punishments, transgressions, and now I was imprinted within it. My fear, my knowledge, my observation, all became part of its eternal record. I understood the futility of resistance. The creature did not need to strike me physically. It had already claimed mentally. Hours passed, the fog swallowing all sense of time. I could feel myself unraveling, the edges of consciousness fraying. Yet within the terror, there was clarity. The Nuckelavee was not evil in a human sense. It was memory made flesh, judgment made visible, an agent of the sea enforcing respect and understanding. I was part of its lesson, its record, its story. When I finally returned to shore, pale and trembling, the villagers offered no comfort. They understood, and they did not need to speak. I had become part of the memory, a living testament to the Nuckelavee's reach. The sea whispered around me constantly, and I could feel the pressure of the creature even when it was not visible. I spent the following days documenting my experiences, trying to rationalize, trying to map the impossible, trying to prove something to myself. But rationality faltered under the weight of memory imposed. I realized that the Nuckelavee's power lay not in its strength or size, but in its ability to record, to observe, to punish through understanding. By the time I returned to the village, I understood the truth fully. The Nuckelavee could not be defeated. It was eternal, patient, and infinite in memory, and I was now trapped within that memory, a witness, a participant, a record to be preserved. Even now, when I walk along the cliffs or watch the tides rise, I feel it. I hear whispers, see shadows shifting unnaturally, feel the pulse of memory in the waves. The creature does not strike openly anymore. It waits, it remembers. And for those who forget, the sea ensures they are never truly free. The Skinless Sea Horse Man of the Orkneys, Part 4, The Escape/Curse. I had come to understand the Nuckelavee or at least as much as one could understand a creature born of memory and sea. The fog clung to the cliffs like a living shroud, and the village remained silent, wary. I knew I was marked. Every heartbeat, every pulse of the tide reminded me that the Nuckelavee had recorded my transgressions and now watched my every step. Escape was no longer a matter of geography. It was a matter of outlasting memory itself. Determined to confront the truth, I prepared my boat one final time. I carried only essentials: a camera, journal, and ropes to secure myself if the sea turned violent. Every sound made me flinch: the wind whipping around corners, the gulls crying overhead, even the creak of my own boat. The villagers did not try to dissuade me. They had seen others attempt this. Some had vanished, others had returned changed, forever haunted. I was determined to survive with evidence. The fog swallowed the cliffs immediately. Visibility was near zero. The water beneath me seemed darker, heavier, as if the sea itself had grown aware of my intent. I rowed cautiously, scanning for the familiar silhouette, the shadow that had become a fixture of my nightmares. It appeared suddenly, rising like a nightmare from the depths, sinew glistening, muscles coiled, hollow eyes locked on mine. The Nuckelavee charged, not blindly, but deliberately. Waves erupted around my boat, tossing it violently. My hands slipped on the oars, muscles straining to maintain control. Every instinct screamed for flight, but the currents themselves seemed to conspire against me. The creature's gaze reached beyond the physical, into the recesses of my mind, unearthing fear, memory, and every moment of human arrogance I had carried with me. The first impact threw me into the water. Cold gripped my body like iron chains. I struggled to the surface, lungs burning, vision blurred. The creature surfaced beside me, sinew glistening, black blood mixing with the waves. Its hollow eyes pierced into me, aware of my every thought, my every intention. I realized then that the Nuckelavee did not hunt in the conventional sense. It hunted through comprehension, through fear, through memory. It was patient. It was infinite. I clawed toward a jagged rock outcropping, my hands raw and bleeding. The Nuckelavee circled, not striking immediately, but pressing its presence into the world around me. Currents twisted unnaturally, pulling me back into the open waves. I could feel it calculating, observing, recording every shiver of my fear, every desperate motion. Hours or minutes, I cannot tell, passed in that frigid water. My body screamed for rest. My mind teetered on the edge of madness. And then, in a rare moment, I glimpsed clarity. The creature's pattern was not random. It moved in loops, calculated, precise, as if performing a ritual. I realized that survival might depend not on outrunning it, but on understanding, on anticipating, on respecting the rhythm of its memory. I staggered into my boat, teeth chattering, body trembling violently. Every stroke of the oars was a battle against both the physical waves and the intangible pressure of observation. The Nuckelavee's shadow glided beneath me, black and vast, muscles rippling, sinew exposed. Hollow eyes followed, unblinking, patient. I understood then that escape would not mean defeating it. It would mean surviving its lesson. The cliffs ahead warped in the fog. I could not tell distance from illusion. Rocks jutted unexpectedly, waves rising without reason. It was as if the Nuckelavee was shaping reality, bending the world to its purpose, crafting the final act of its judgment. I rowed with every ounce of strength left, praying that the fog and the tide would favor me. Then came the final wave, taller and sharper than any before. My boat smashed into it, splintering, throwing me into the freezing water once more. The Nuckelavee rose beside me, sinew taut, muscles glistening, black blood dripping into the waves. Hollow eyes drilled into mine, not in rage, but in calculation. It remembered everything, and it remembered me. I realized that confrontation was futile. The only chance of survival was to submit to the rhythm, to move in harmony with the creature's memory. I let myself drift, let the currents carry me, letting fear guide instinct. The waves roared, foaming, breaking violently, and yet somehow I emerged on a rocky ledge, gasping, soaked, trembling. The Nuckelavee lingered at the water's edge, watching, remembering. I had survived, but I was forever changed. My body bore bruises, my hands raw and bleeding, my lungs burned. My mind, however, carried something far heavier, the imprint of memory. Every sinew, every hollow eye, every black droplet of blood was etched into my consciousness. I knew I could not unsee it, unremember it, or escape the lesson. The villagers found me hours later, muttering incoherently about the sea and its patience. They understood what had happened. Some had seen others like me return, marked, haunted, carrying the weight of memory like a second skin. They offered no comfort. Words were useless against what I had witnessed. That night, I slept fitfully, dreams filled with boiling waves, sinew, hollow eyes. The Nuckelavee did not appear directly, yet its presence was in every gust of wind, every ripple of water. I understood that my escape had been partial. Physically, I survived. Mentally, emotionally, I had joined the record. I was now a living testament to the Nuckelavee's memory, a human echo of its judgment. In the following days, I tried to return to normalcy, to research, to rationalize, but the sea whispered constantly. Currents shifted unnaturally, fog thickened in impossible patterns, and shadows moved just beyond perception. The Nuckelavee had taught me a lesson I could not unlearn. The sea remembers, and those who disrespect it are forever recorded in its consciousness. I began to notice the subtle changes in myself. My dreams became vivid records of past transgressions, not just mine, but others I had read about in journals. The Nuckelavee's memory extended through me. I could see the eyes of vanished fishermen, feel the panic of those who drowned, relive the errors that had brought them to its notice. I was not just haunted by it. I had become a vessel of its record. Even now, years later, the sea speaks to me. Waves pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. Fog gathers in unnatural patterns. Shadows move just beyond the edge of vision. I hear whispers, questions, accusations, reminders of memory. I am never truly alone. The Nuckelavee waits, patient, skinless, eternal. It remembers everything and through me. Its memory extends further. I have left the Orkneys, yet I cannot leave the Nuckelavee behind. Its presence lingers, shaping perception, twisting reality, reminding me constantly that memory is a force as tangible and terrifying as flesh. I share the story not to frighten, but to caution. The sea is patient. The sea remembers. And the Nuckelavee watches, always. If you ever sail near misty cliffs, if you ever hear whispers over the waves, remember, respect the old ways, respect the water, and carry the weight of memory carefully. The creature waits, patient, eternal, skinless, and unblinking. And if you wish to learn more stories of the unknown, subscribe and witness truths the world tries to forget.